my god. Guys. Oh. Guys. There's a new iPad out. Didn't we just get a new iPad out a few months ago? Like a basic edition iPad? But now we got a new revamped iPad Pro. 2 actually.
What's going on, guys? This Nando.
And if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. We talk tech, we do reviews, we do unboxings, we do impressions, we do a little bit of everything revolving tech and some. So if you're new, please hit that subscribe button. Now, so let's start off by talking about this. So we've got new iPads, we've got a new HomePod, we've got new iOS 11, we've got, what else we got? New iMacs, a new iMac Pro, new base model iMacs, and then revamped MacBooks or MacBook Pros. So where to begin? Guys, if you haven't watched WWDC, now I want to cover and focus on what I think are the biggest things, the more important for the average consumer, for the everyday Joe Schmo. So let's start off by talking about this. The iPad Pro looks cool. It's got thinner bezels, nicer screen, more power, all that stuff that you expect with new models of anything, right? Every time a new model comes out or a new iteration, you expect a spec bump. And that's cool, that's fine. Like, I don't think anybody gets upset about a spec bump. And you see that across the iPad range as well as the MacBook Pro range. So people like myself who bought the new Touch Bar Edition MacBook Pros, well, they just dropped the new Katy Lake processor in there, made them a little bit faster. It happens, right? It happens. Now, in regards to that iPad Pro, I want to go back to that iPad Pro. So the spec bumps are nice, but what's more exciting about this new MacBook Pro is the fact that they've reduced the bezel and they've basically done away with the 9.7 inch iPad Pro. I've got an iPad Pro 9.7 inch. Hold on, let me go get that real quick. They've reduced the bezel. So essentially, sorry about the glare, consider as if half of this bezel was reduced, half of this bezel over here was reduced, and there you have it, a 10.5 inch iPad Pro, and they've done away with the 9.7, which honestly, in my opinion, I think makes the most sense because the iPad line was so convoluted. I mean, they've just recently announced like a base model iPad. So you had still an iPad mini, I think it's the 4 that's hanging around. Then you had now you're gonna have the base iPad. And then you've got the 2 versions of the iPad Pro, the 10.5 inch and then a spec bump on the 12.9 inch. The 12.9 inch already have pretty thin bezels. I mean, they could try to push them further out. I don't know if that's something they're gonna do in the future, but the 9.7 inch iPad Pro was the one that really had the bigger bezels, and now they've been reduced so you have a 10.5 inch. Now, all of that with the spec bump and the hardware changes really doesn't outshine what I think was the most important announcement of WWDC, and that's the fact that iOS 11 is doing a lot of things. More importantly, it's doing a lot of things for the iPad lineup, in this case the Pro, because the new multitasking situation that's going on with iOS 11 is really, I think, going to take the iPad Pro and elevate it to a level that I think most tech heads out there, not casual users, but most tech heads out there have been wanting to see the iPad Pro line develop into. So you're getting a new app dock, you're getting new ways to multitask, you're getting new ways to kind of like floating apps around the screen. Those are all things that I think the average consumer is going to appreciate, but the prosumer is really going to take advantage of, because now you're going to be able to do more with your iPad. It's not just having an Apple Pencil and having the Smart Keyboard, which I think the Smart Keyboard is absolutely like worthless in my opinion. The Apple Pencil is actually really useful. And then being able to annotate in more places, being able to search for those handwritten notes, being able to have a file system, being able to have a multi app dock that's always present at the bottom if you want to, or a swipe up, being able to split screen and copy and drag between sides, that's going to be crucial for your productivity when using an iPad Pro. And I'm sure that's going to work as well with your base iPad, but you know, obviously that spec bump and the ability to use Apple Pencil is what's going to really push you, I think, towards the iPad Pro line. I mean, it is what it is. I have a 9.7 inch. I'm going to look into selling it because I think that 10.5 is perfect, because honestly, I've had the 12.9 inch iPad Pro, and I'm going to keep saying it. I think that the form factor of the now 10.5 inch iPad Pro that only weighs 1 pound is beautiful. It's optimal. I think that if you're going for a 12.9 inch iPad Pro, you're probably using the Apple Pencil even more so than the person that's using the smaller 10.5, or you don't have a MacBook Pro or don't have another laptop to do productivity on. So in my opinion, iOS 11 for the iPad Pro line is a heck of a revolution. I think I think Apple's done a really good job with that. With that being said, guys, if you've been waiting for a refresh on the iPad Pro, I have done a previous review of the 9.7, how it's been holding up. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the new 10.5 inch. What do you guys think of iOS 11 when it comes to the iPad Pro? Let me know in the comment section below. Let's get a discussion going, because I think that that's really going to sway a lot of people into wanting an iPad Pro. Now, that wasn't the only thing that was discussed, obviously, at WWDC. iOS 11 also affects the iPhone lineup. Now, we know that Apple releases new iPhones in the fall, so we had no talks of hardware for the next iteration of the iPhone, but what we did get to see are new cool features that iOS brings to, or I should say iOS 11 brings to the iPhone. I'm gonna say this, there's a lot of cool things about iOS 11 for the iPhone as well. But the number one, the coolest thing that I think that iOS 11 brings to the iPhone is person-to-person payment method with Apple Pay, with your iPhone. I think that is going to really be useful amongst casual users. I think that's really going to bring a lot of people in from outside platforms, possibly Android, because obviously there's not really other competition out there besides Android, into the Apple ecosystem. And I've talked about that in the past, right when the Galaxy S8 came out, and I'm currently using still the Galaxy S8 Plus. But I'm gonna tell you something, and I'm sure that if you're watching this video, you know someone who uses an iPhone. Probably, right? I know that most of my friends use iPhones. And iMessage is great. Now, having iMessage be the web that holds people together when it comes to that person-to-person payment method, I think it's going to be brilliant from Apple's standpoint. I think that if you're someone that likes to use the iPhone and you're committed to using an iPhone and you're committed to the Apple ecosystem, I think that person-to-person payment method is brilliant. Now, of course, I get it. There's tons of other payment options out there. Currently, I use PayPal when I need to send money to someone. But being able to, in a conversation, just say, hey, you owe me money, and it be prompted whether or not you're going to pay that person. And when you pay that person, that money goes into Apple's little like credit card or card, I forget whatever they call it. And then wherever you go that accepts Apple Pay, you can then pay with that card. So get that. You can pay with that, right? Wherever it accepts Apple Pay, or you can then transfer that money into your bank. And it's all seamless, at least it looks seamless on stage, and that to me is what I'm most excited about when it comes to iOS 11 for iPhone. So I'm anxious to see what Android's going to do about that, because they got to do something about it, right? Because that just further keeps people in the iMessage and Apple ecosystem. Because rather than leaving Apple, rather than leaving the iMessage to go to PayPal, to go to Square Pay or whatever it's called, or Android Pay or Google Wallet, all these other things, you stay there, and that to Apple is a win. And I think for the average consumer, that's also a win, because it's not a hassle, it's easy, and it's quick. Assuming that when you transfer money to someone, it happens like this. So I don't know if that's going to be the case, but if it is, and I'm assuming it is, then yes. If it's not and it takes a while, then that's another issue. Now we also saw updates to, like I said, to the MacBook Pro line, spec bumps, not a lot there, but we also saw Apple really emphasize the iMac lineup, showing that they're more serious about it. Not, I wouldn't say as serious as some of the real big productive users out there wish they were, but they did state that the new iMac Pro comes out later this December with a whole lot of gigabytes for RAM, a whole lot of GPU upgrades, a whole lot of cores and all that good stuff, and I think that that's going to satisfy a lot of those users out there. From an average prosumer perspective, I think that what they did with the new 21.5 inch 4K, I think they have a 5K as well. I think being able to go to 8 gigabytes, 16 gigabytes, or 32 gigabytes for not that much more money, I think that is something that I'm interested in. Currently, I'm using a Mac Mini that's super old with 4 gigs of RAM, so you understand my pain. So WWDC covered a lot of stuff. It went on for well over 2 hours, and they kind of finished off with what they're calling the HomePod. So they emphasized this, like, I think it's about 7 inches or almost 7-inch speaker, and they emphasized that today when you're going out to buy a stereo speaker, something to listen to music, you're either spending a couple $100s to get a really good sounding speaker that does nothing else besides play music or your audio or act as a glorified speakerphone, or you're spending $130 to $200 to get like a smart speaker that sucks at music. So Apple really emphasized that, and emphasized that their new HomePod is only going to cost $349. Not that HomePod is going to work through your iPhone or iOS devices and focus on Siri for questions, for music, for news, for things like that. But it seems to me that Apple focused more on the fact that that new speaker system of theirs is going to be really good for consuming content to use with AirPlay 2 and just music in general. So I'm a little concerned whether that means that Apple is still planning on upgrading Siri more, which we'll then see with the new iPhone 8 that comes out in the fall, because they plan on speccing up the hardware to deliver a better Siri, or if that's something that they're going to then, release in future iterations of the HomePod. To me, it gives me the impression that this HomePod is a very nice speaker, and then the added bonus is that Siri and your iPhone and your iPad and things like that are going to work well with it. I can't really complain about that. It's at least Apple venturing out into a new market. We expected that, especially with the release of the new Amazon Show. That we've got Google Home and their new features that they just talked about at Google I/O. So Apple had to do something to jump in that market before it was too late. I hope that by doing so, they are forced to now spend even more time, more resources, more energy to emphasize that Siri needs to get better, and I think they get the picture. I think they got the picture when it came to the Mac line, the iMac line, and that's good. That just helps everybody, and you know what I mean? Even if you hate Apple and you hate the Apple ecosystem or any individual Apple product or all Apple products, if Apple is killing the game, then that forces Google and Samsung and Windows and everyone else that also competes with Apple in that space to pick it up, to try, to innovate, to do more. It is what it is. But let me know in the comment section below if there's one product, one announcement, one feature from WWDC 2017 that you're most excited about. Was there a product that you were on the fence about and now you're really like, hey, that made up my mind for me? Was it the new iPad Pro? Was it iOS 11? Was it the HomePod? Let me know in the comment section below, and thumbs up this video, guys, if you haven't already throughout the video. Subscribe, please, if you haven't already as well. I will be dropping more videos regarding WWDC, regarding the new iPad Pro, especially if I can get my hands on one, comparisons with the 9.7 inch. I will then be selling my 9.7 inch, so if you guys are interested in that, let me know in the comment section below as well, and we'll figure something out. And that's it, guys. That's it. And I'm stoked. I'm excited. I think that is really gonna build up the hype for the iPhone 8. And that's it. Stay geeky like always, guys. It was Nando. Done with this video, on to the next one. Peace and salute.